Okay, looks like I'm alive, people, and there may not be anybody here yet, but welcome to the live stream when you do show up. And yeah, we're going to get this going. We're going to be talking about science fiction. It's going to be an Ask Me Anything. I'm going to be doing Treasures from the Man Cave, and I'm going to be showing some books upon which movies were based, and movies, books that were on the back, books that were about movies or upon which movies were based, and novelizations. I'm I'm flustered because the technology went wrong on me. And hi, Darren, how you doing? So, hopefully everybody will move over here. And yeah, so it's been wet here. We're still in lockdown, and I'm just going to waffle for a little bit until everybody is back here. Hey, Monteval. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of things. I'll start off while we're waiting for people. Hi, Jack. I'll start off with Treasures from the Man Cave. I found this, I don't know where I got it from. Now, the Man Cave, as you can see behind me, is a wounded camera of weird stuff. There's all sorts of crazy things in the Man Cave, which I've collected over a long time. And I don't know where I got a Japanese, sorry, Hong Kong $20 bill from. I have absolutely no idea where that came from, but there it is. It's part of the Man Cave. Yeah, Michael Williams says just crossed 700,000 dead of COVID in the US. Absolutely. I'm so sorry for you guys. It's been a rolling catastrophe. It's crazy all over the world. And what I really want to see happen now is kind of vaccines go to third world countries where it's even worse, where it's not people being willfully against getting the jab, but it's people who want the jab but can't access it. I think that's going to be where the real impact hits in the future. Um, any trips to Ohio's when you went to the US? Who, me? You're talking to me, middle-aged geek girl? Okay, so the chat has kind of stopped here. So, yep, about the money. Yeah, I didn't stop in Hong Kong. I definitely didn't stop in Hong Kong, and I don't know where that came from, but it's here. And Jack S says, got my booster shot with the flu shot. Great. I want people to not die and keep watching the channel. That's the big emphasis, and it's one of the mottos of the channel. Hi, John. How you doing? Yep. So we're going here. So I've got tons of things. So what do you want first? I've got actually another thing I'm doing too. I've actually planned things for this um, live stream, in spite of what it sounds from the way I'm waffling. I've also got my top three movie things. I've got a list of top threes. So you can have top three. You can have more Treasures of the Man Cave, or I can start on the movie related novels I've got. So, what do people want to see first? And the first one that comes up gets it. While I have a sip of morning brown. So, waiting to hear what people want me to do. Oh shit, this needs a trim. Treasures of the Man Cave says Darren. Darren gets it. Okay, let's see. Nah, let me. I'm going to go through these because there's one here that I really want to do. Have I seen the novel Predator, John Kerry? I've seen it, but I haven't got it. Haven't read it. Okay, have a look at this. Let's see. Was based on the original script. Okay, yeah, that's the interesting thing about novelizations. They're often based on a better version than the movie ended up getting by being based on the script. You're going to like this one. I actually managed to pick up a job lot of theatre programs from London theatres in around 1950. And I ended up with Orson Welles in Othello, which is really weird. That's the actual theatre program for it, directed by Laurence Olivier. So I ended up with that somehow in the Man Cave, and that was in the days when white people played Othello. Yeah, but Straffen Wilder says Star Wars the same, based on the original script and had some subplots dropped from the movie. Yeah, that original script, even though it says it was written by George Lucas, was not written by George Lucas. I'm trying to remember who it was written by. Monteval says a year before I was born. Yeah. So yeah, basically, I treasure that. That's a wonderful thing to have. Is a theatre program from Orson Welles playing Othello on stage in London. I think he was doing it mostly to raise money for a movie he wanted to make. Jerry says, "Hey Terry, do you have any eight tracks in the man crate?" Nah, eight tracks were a little rarer here than they were in the US. When I was in America in '98, every charity shop and thrift store had eight-track decks and eight-track cartridges. But yeah, Alan Dean Foster, Darren, thank you. He did Splinter in the Mind's Eye. He's still arguing with them legally about getting a little bit of back pay for that stuff. Yep, Orson Welles, one of the greatest actors ever. Let me see who else was in this Othello, because it's going to be interesting to see which. Let's have a look. Iago was played by Peter Finch. Jeez, that's impressive. You got Orson Welles playing Othello. You've got Iago being played by Peter Finch. John Van Eysen plays Cassio. He was in the original Christopher Lee Dracula as well. Edward Mulhare, people remember from Knight Rider. He was in there as well. Maxine Audley. Oh, wow. This is more impressive than I thought it was. So that's the second treasure from the man cave. Fahrenheit 451, have the movie and just order the book. Yeah, the book's different from the movie. I think the movie copped a lot of crap in the 1960s when it came out. But I revisited it about a decade ago. I really should watch it again. And it was, I think it's a solid adaptation without actually being an adaptation. And yeah, Truffaut never made an interesting film. Yeah, Lee, you had to reboot because the other live stream assumed that I had streaming software rather than running the native YouTube streaming software. I'm really going to have to do my homework in future for that one. Hey, hi Lee, how you doing? And I'm going to go. I'm going to keep going with Treasures from the Man Cave because I've got yeah, it does have a monorail. That monorail was in France, and it's the grooviest underslung monorail. So the track is at the top, and the carriage is slung underneath it. People should watch Fahrenheit 451. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means, but it is worth checking out. Yeah, the other thing I've actually got a few things here. That one's not relevant, so I'll put that one aside. Anybody remember Cinerama, that movie format where you had three projectors and you end up with a really wide screen? And they did movies like The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm and How the West Was Won. They did all that in Cinerama. And they also did some documentary things to show how Cinerama worked. Now, I think there was one Cinerama movie in theatre in Sydney, which was the Plaza in Sydney, where I grew up. I've actually got a cinema ticket from Cinerama Holiday, which my good friend Ivor Cole sent me because he was in Sydney at the time and he picked up a whole bunch of movie related stuff. And yeah, so that's basically what cinema tickets used to look like. Lee Lavery says, have I seen the new Foundation series? Jared Harris is great. Middle-aged geek girl is the world's biggest Jared Harris fan. She totally stands Jared Harris. Cinerama Dome just up the street in Sunset, says Gonzi Merchant. Unfortunately shuttered now. Hopefully the rumour's true. It will open in winter. They can't not open the Cinerama Dome. Cinerama Dome is iconic. It's kind of like the new Beverly. Yep. George S. says, I saw How the West Was Won in Cinerama when I was a kid. Yeah. Maybe I should do a video about a couple of Cinerama movies, even though I'm watching them on my TV screen. I may well do. Middle-aged geek girl, can you please write down Cinerama movies for me on the list that you're keeping? Yeah. So, hi, Sparkling Signer. How you doing? So I'm going to keep going. This one, everyone's going to like. I picked these up about 30 years ago in a junk store. Actually, it was in a market store. And they are, and I love these, and I've kept them quite carefully since then. James Bond bubblegum cards. There is Jack Lord and Sean Connery from Dr. No. So I've got that. Robert Shaw from Russia with Love, In From Russia with Love. Robert Shaw is just so cool in that movie. Next up, Gert Frober from Goldfinger. Joseph Wiseman as Dr. No, which is very, very cool. Connery again in Dr. No. Will I be seeing No Time to Die in cinemas? As soon as the cinemas open, Brian, I will be. And there's Connery with the Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger. And on the back of the cards are like that, so they've got a little bit of information about it on the backs of the cards, and they're the only ones I've got. When is it Robert Shaw? Cool, yeah. Diamonds Are Forever. What was Pussfella called such? Left out the plot of him defeating an octopus. Yeah, because they kind of borrowed Pussfella and people like that from the short story of Octopussy, which is totally not about Maud Adams and Louis Jourdain and all that crap that they put in the Roger Moore movie. Triple screen. When TCM showed how the West was won, they used the Cinerama format in TV. Seen the 451 remake of a couple of years ago? No, I haven't. Is it any good? Sorry, when is Robert Shaw not cool? Never. Robert Shaw was cool. He was a drunkard, but he was cool, and he did a number of really great films. And if you look at a lot of 1950s English war films, you'll see Robert Shaw somewhere in the background. Let's see. I'll do a little bit more of the treasures from the man cave. Now, these are, excuse me, quite rare. Um, this is a London version of A Streetcar Named Desire, starring Vivian Leigh. There's the original theatre program for that with Bono Colaiano playing Kowalski in it, Stanley Kowalski. Now, he was really good in a movie called Pool of London that I've talked about before. Sparkling Cyanide said the commercials here in America at the moment for Daniel Craig's last outing as James Bond called No Time to Die. I want to see it. I haven't seen it because cinemas aren't open here. I haven't even seen Shang-Chi yet because the cinemas aren't open, though Disney Plus is releasing Shang-Chi on the 3rd of November for free on their platform. Seems as though Orange Ink was very popular. Yeah, absolutely. I'm only going to show on more of these theatre things because there's a lot of kind of obscure stuff. But the Folies Bergère with all of the topless ladies was allowed in London theatres in the 1950s as long as the naked ladies didn't move. And so I've got the one from the Folies Bergère performances that were done in London. And on the back, you've got a very posh ad for Air France. Ross Skilton says, am I looking forward to Doom? Yeah, I think the cast is great. I definitely think Denis Villeneuve is a great director. I'm trying to steer away from reviews and things of it, and it's difficult for us because cinemas are closed. I can't see Shang-Chi. I can't see No Time to Die yet. I can't see Dune when it comes out until cinemas reopen. FG says, one of my favourite movies is the original Taking Pelham 123 with Robert Shaw. Yeah, and Walter Matthau doing a really nice dramatic piece in there as well. Yeah, and that one's got some great character actors in it. Filmed on the streets of New York too, which always lends a verisimilitude to it that a lot of movies these days don't have. And it's beautifully edited as well. If you look at the editing on the Taking of Pelham 123, it's sharp, and I think there are a number of cutters of modern days who really should take a note from that. Sure, in Jaws was great too. Yeah, absolutely. The USS Indianapolis scene, particularly, is really good. And excuse me, let me have a cup of coffee. TV version of Pelham between the two cinema versions. Yeah, there was, but I don't think it was a movie that needed to be remade. I think it was very much a movie of the 70s, and it should have stayed that way. If you like that, you should also like The Laughing Detective. Yeah, that one with Matthau. Matthau did so many good things. Charlie Varick is a fantastic film. Um, with Jodon Baker and Felicia Farr in it. Fantastic movie, tight little action film. Saw it in the 70s, and I still like it. So I'm going to move on to my top threes. I'm going to do a couple of top threes. If people are ready for that, because I've actually got notes everywhere here. Excuse me, I'm just going to hit the mute button while I cough. I've got a mute button on another thing, see? Ross Gilton says, I've avoided cinema, but I will make an effort for June. It's out in the UK on October 22nd. Will be a first cinema visit in 2 years. Absolutely. Ready. Here we go. Top threes. Yeah, I'll do top three robots. Top three science fiction movie robots. Robbie the Robot, number one. I'll answer some of these things in a moment, but I'll do the top threes first. Robbie the Robot, number one. Number two, the female robot in Metropolis, played by who is it? Bridget Helm? No, it's not Bridget Helm. Could be. And three, and this is a real deep cut. The movie Red Planet from 2000 had a really great robot on Mars called Amy, Automated Mapping, Exploration, and Evasion, which was kind of like a robot jaguar. It was a hunting cat of a robot, and it's fantastic. It's the only good thing in that particular movie. Let's have a look. Let's see. Sparking Silence. Do I have a machine that will play discs? Absolutely. Yeah, I can. I've got a multi-zone. I've got multi-zone players all over the place. Yeah, Gary 4983 says Mars Robot was scary. Robot from Logan's Run box. Yeah, that was kind of okay. Roscoe Lee Brown played that one, but the robot itself was pretty shit, to be honest. It looked like a Halloween costume. Let's have a look. And Monteval says Danger Will Robinson. That's television, mate. Let's have a look. Brian Lindsay. I absolutely love the robot controlled by mad scientist Bela Lugosi in the cheesy old Phantom Creeps. Yeah, that one wasn't bad for its day. It was pretty good. And Darren Bennett says I've wiped Red Planet from my mind. And the robots from Silent Running, yeah, they were okay. Peter Cushion says hi from Ireland. Hi, Peter. Sorry that you guys are stuck next door to that weird country with the guy with the hair. By the way, I'm wearing my hat today because I haven't been able to have a haircut for a long time, and my hair's gone crazy, buffy. Tars, yeah, Tars was okay from Interstellar. I rewatched Interstellar, and here's my bugbear, and this is purely a personal kind of thing. I hate science fiction movies that are about daddy issues. Contact was about daddy issues. Interstellar was about daddy issues. Move on from the previous generation and just live now. Daddy issues science fiction movies really do cheese me off. Modval says, wasn't it physically the same robot from Forbidden Planet Lost in Space? No, two different robots. Yep. Lee Larry says, I'm not a fan of Boris Johnson. Few people who aren't rich are. Yeah, Adam Link from The Outer Limits was cute. I think that they really humanized the robot. They had to cram the story in quite tightly into the format, but I think that robot's definitely an honourable one. The robot cop in THS 1138 was played by Johnny Weissmuller Jr. Wow. Yeah, but that was just a guy with a face mask on. That doesn't count. HAL 9000 from 2001. Yeah, but HAL was more a computer than a robot. Robots move and HAL was just a blinking light. I think they did remake the iRobot episode for the 90s Outer Limits. 90s Outer Limits was interesting as well. Writer I'm friends with on Facebook, Stephen Barnes, did a couple of episodes of the 90s Outer Limits, and he wrote them because he's a black American. He wrote the various characters in the stories as people of color, and the producers changed it to white people because they wanted to use certain actors. So that was a little bit problematic. The robot from Rocky 4 is the best movie robot. Have I seen Rocky 4? I don't know that I have. The Rocky movies don't impress me much. Did I see the trailer for the live action Cowboy Bebop? Yeah, I think I'm going to watch that. I haven't watched much of the original anime of Cowboy Bebop, but John Cho sold me on it in the trailer. 90s LM's got a little nasty at time. I think by the nature of those kind of science fiction stories, they bloody well better get nasty. I think that you've got to have an edge in the same way Black Mirror has a sharp razor edge to it. You've got to have that. The red robot from the black hole, Maximilian, scared the living crap out of me when I was about 12, Sparking Sign. Yeah, that movie is bad. I've rewatched it in recent years, and they've got quite a good John Williams music score in it, but they use it repeatedly. It is they turn a John Williams score into something boring. Yeah, Paul, you should check out the trailer for the live action Cowboy Bebop, but only after the live stream finishes. Saturn Five, yeah, that one. What was the name of the robot in Saturn Five? I know Harvey Keitel was in that along with Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett. But yeah, the Black Hole was flawed, but visually it was interesting. But Disney tried to make a 1950s Star Wars with it, and the, I'll tell you where Black Hole lost me. Black Hole lost me when Yvette Mimieux says to somebody on the script, "We're looking for habitable life." Think about that one. Bicentennial Man. Does Lance Henriksen in Alien count? No, he's an android. Slightly different. Trying to be a human. Yep. Three robots from Silent Running. Do you want another top three? Because the top three seem to be working well so far. Yeah, definitely. Maximilian is a great robot in a mediocre movie. Harvey Keitel seems to be turning up lots. In what you've been watching recently, Lee. Yeah, he is a great actor. I think that I would have loved to seen him in a light comedy, but I never did. Well, yeah, but that's Darren. But I don't think they meant it that way. I think they just didn't know what they were saying and threw in a whole bunch of scientific terms they didn't understand. Robot from Saturn 3 was Hector. Thank you, Indy8892. Ex Machina, hottest robot. Yeah, well, there is that. Plus, you get Oscar Isaac dancing, which is not a bad thing. Okay, I'm going to go with another top three. The top three movie biopics that'll never be made. So the biographical movies that will never be made. Number one, Kevin Spacey biopic. Never going to be made. Nobody is ever going to make that unless it's Fox News. Number two, a uh, a George C. Scott biopic. Nobody's going to make that because George C. Scott was famous for bashing women when he got drunk. So that one's never going to happen. And also, he had such a distinctive look, nobody would make it. Number three, a Gene Roddenberry biopic. Nobody's going to do a Gene Roddenberry biopic for a couple of reasons. First one is the family is protecting his legacy a lot. And Gene Roddenberry was a player. He was having affairs with Nichelle Nichols and Majel Barrett at the same time in the 1960s. He was picking up women who were guest starring on Star Trek, the original series. He was such a player, and that goes so much against the mythology and the legend that the family's building up that they're never going to do a biopic of him, which is honest in any way at all. His son's making a biopic of Gene Roddenberry. Yeah, but it won't be honest. It won't have all of the stuff in it that is actually true. Marlon Brando biopic, it'd be so diverse and change themes, fit it all in. Yeah, because everything that I've seen says that Marlon Brando was an anything that moves kind of guy. He was bisexual at the very least. Roman Polanski's another one, Mr. Witchman, 1967. Absolutely, though they may make it in Europe. I mean, he still made movies up until recently. In Europe, he was definitely not persona non grata, which is a shame. Kenneth Anger could have made a Kevin Spacey biopic. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all of those. No, not all the science fiction authors in the 40s to the 70s were all perverts, and perverts is a very loaded term. I wouldn't use that term. I don't think it's kind of right to. There are people who've got diverse sexuality. There are people who have non-monogamy as a part of their makeup. Yeah, Woody Allen biopic. Yeah, Woody Allen one. Though, if you look back in a whole bunch of sketch comedy shows, there are so many people doing Woody Allen impersonations. It was crazy. Not sex fiends. Basically, they're diverse. And Too bad the family didn't protect Asimov's legacy with that lousy foundation, thinks his Michael Williams. Haven't seen it yet. Problem is, here's the problem with Foundation. First off, not enough female characters in the original works. Secondly, Asimov could not write a character if he held a gun at his head. He could do the stories and he could do the ideas, but characterization was not something at which he was gifted. So there's that. And he'll never be a Christopher Lee by the too tall and too distinctive a voice. Absolutely. Yep. Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Yeah. And, Silent Running. Peter Cushing would be great. Let's have a look. Big segment of the science fiction West Coast scene were womanizers. Heinlein, Roddenberry. Well, womanizers again, that's a loaded term. I mean, the thing is that if you have a look at anyone famous on the West Coast of America, any time from the 1920s, they were all getting more than their share of horizontal companionship. Lee says the first two eps of Foundation were good, but I agree characters in the book were tripe. The same for Clark. He couldn't write characters for Toffee. Absolutely. And he also had a fondness for Sri Lankan Beach Boys, but that's another thing. Let's have a look. So I'll go on with another top three. Do people want to hear the top three movies that will never be remade? Because I've got them. Yeah, Purple Rose of Cairo is a beautiful film, but it's one of the least Woody Allen's films in a sense. Okay, top three movies that'll never be remade. You ready? The Jolson Story. Nobody is going to remake the biopic of Al Jolson. Second one, The Happy Time Murders. That movie with Melissa McCarthy where she lives in a world full of Muppets. That if you haven't seen Happy Time Murders, it's crazy bad. The third movie that's never going to be remade is any other Melissa McCarthy movie. That's my take on the top three. Let's have a look here. Yeah, the Happy Time Murders was crazy bad. Now, if I can get a super chat, I will tell you the next of the top threes. So I'm going to move on from there. Do people want to start seeing some of the movie novelizations that I've got here and the movie related books? Because I've got some good ones. Paul Berger says, I love the Happy Time Murders. Well, there's something for everyone in cinema, I suppose. Citizen Kane, I wouldn't put it past someone to redo Citizen Kane. The interesting thing that I've heard is happening is that The Magnificent Ambersons, the second movie Orson Welles made, which was butchered by the studio, they're doing computer-generated effects to try to redo it with as much of the original story as possible. They're trying to do Wells' original vision of it using computer animatics to fill the gaps, and I'd find that very interesting. Meet the Feebles. Yeah, Meet the Feebles was okay. You just don't like New Zealanders, middle-aged kid girl. Singing in the Rain. Yeah, the silly string gag was pretty bad in the Happy Time Murders. You never thought anyone would do Nightmare Alley or Rollerball, but here we are. The Nightmare Alley one I'm looking forward to. Yeah, the second movie that Orson Welles was going to make was an adaptation of Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which ended up being made as Apocalypse Now. I would have liked to have seen that one. Is Chopper the best Australian prison film? No. Ghosts of the Civil Dead is the best Australian prison film, or for the term of his natural life, because basically all of Australia was a prison when that was set. Yellow Submarine in 3D mocap CGI using the original animation. Yeah, but we don't need to see that. I mean, the thing is that there are cultural things as time has passed, and I think that Yellow Submarine, good though it was, is locked into the 1960s, and having a market for a 3D version of it in the 2020s is probably not going to play. Though, if you want to do it yourself, you can do it. Okay, here we go. I'm going on to the movie books that I've got. I'll start with the Australian ones. Yeah, Australians do think Chopper was a dickhead. That was basically because Chopper was a dickhead. Okay, these ones you might not have heard about. They're Australian movies. The movies you'll have heard of, but you may not know that there were books based on them. Let me see. One, the movie was based on, but the rest of them, the only thing I remember about Help is Leo McKern. Prisoner, the movie, no way. Okay, you ready? Did you know that the original Mad Max had a novelization? It did. And very few people know about it, and I'm sure that it's worth crazy amounts of money these days. But I have the novelization of the original Mad Max, which I haven't read, but I really should. And there you go. There's Mel Gibson finding out that the world has just discovered that he's an anti-Semite. Yep. So I've got the original Mad Max. I think there were novelizations of the other films as well, but I don't have them. Second one is an Australian film that everybody who likes cinema and everyone who likes Australian films should have seen by now. It's the original version of Wake in Fright, Kenneth Cook's original book. It's not thick. This is the Penguin edition, based, which was a movie tie-in. Yeah, Lee Brunk says, "Quick, put that book in a plasticine cover." Absolutely. So the Wake in Fright is there as well, and yeah, that one's a really dark Australian movie. Nice thing is Ted Kotcheff, who directed it, was a Canadian, so we could see Australia from an outsider's viewpoint. And that's one of the reasons why the movie was just as perfect as it is. Brian Lindsay says paperbacks in the UK are much better bound than US paperbacks. How about Australian publishers? It depends on the publishers. They don't do as many these days, but I know that it's improved. But there was a time when there were some very cheap paperbacks that came out, and the binding on them wasn't great. Third one is an Australian movie that was made on a very low budget, up around the Hawkesbury River in Sydney. It's very much a feminist movie. It's about a bunch of female convicts in colonial times, and also a rich lady who are fed up with the sexism and the rape by the soldiers and the people in the early Australian colonial days. It very much went against the narrative that they had of the bold pioneers of Australia. And it's a movie called Journey Among Women, which, yes, it does have a topless lady on the front. So I'll do that. But Journey Among Women is a really interesting movie if you can find it. It's not incredibly well made, and a lot of it was improvised by the actors, but it cheesed off so many right wing people at the time. You got to love it. The Man from Snowy River. Yeah, that was pretty good. Wasn't a western. Yes, I'm going to censor it because I want to keep this channel monetized. The last Australian one I've got is a movie I've been told I should rewatch, and I will rewatch. The Last Wave. Peter Weir's The Last Wave. Now, this one is one that I'm going to put on my list to watch. Again, they got an American actor, Richard Chamberlain, in because you couldn't sell an Australian movie unless it had an American actor in it. On the back, you've got a real Australian actor, David Gulpilil, playing one of the Aboriginal people that Richard Chamberlain's character meets. But The Last Wave is quite impressive. I saw it in Sydney, in a cinema in Pitt Street in Sydney. And one of the scenes in the movie shows that part of Sydney underwater with a bus. So it was really weird to be in a cinema where an apocalyptic scene was filmed outside the cinema. So yeah, that one's quite interesting as well. So they're the Australian ones I've got. I've got a big stack of other movie related books here, so we can go through them as well. Yeah, the last wave I'm going to revisit. I want to try to find a decent DVD or Blu-ray copy of it, and then kind of deep dive into it for a future video. But people should check that one out if they haven't. It is a disturbing movie, and really, any in hardback. The only thing I've got in hardback over there is the original first edition of 2 Weeks in Another Town, the Irwin Shaw novel upon which the movie was based. Don't have too many hardbacks because they take up too much space. Itchy head. But yeah, don't know. This is weird. I really should get a separate microphone because I don't actually need the headphones on because all I can hear is my own voice. Top three. Does anybody want to hear the top three James Bond films? If I get a super chat from anybody, I will tell you the top three James Bond films. So let's see. I'm looking up the thing here. Yeah, they don't tend to do novelizations anymore. The last one I know of was Pat Cadigan did an adaptation of Alita Battle Angel. D. Lee says, hello there, enjoying the session. In my case, I'm not the 100th person to mention. Bridget Helm was an activist robot in Metropolis. Absolutely, she was. Did I get shook up by the quake? Jack says. Yeah, we did. I was sitting right here when it happened. And the whole house jolted back and forth. And I went, okay, this is an earthquake. A few things rattled on the shelves, but nothing fell off. We were about 150 kilometers from the epicenter of it. But there we go. We got a super chat from Daniel and a super chat from Michael. Thank you very much. Here you go. Top three James Bond films. Thank you very much, guys. Here we go. Top three James Bond film. From Russia with Love, because it's the purest adaptation of the original Ian Fleming novel. And I will address your question in a moment, Michael. Second one, the Daniel Craig Casino Royale, because it's true to the spirit of the original novel. And it adapted it to the 21st century in a really interesting way. And it revived James Bond from being a punchline to a viable cinematic property. The third one, even though it does have George Lazenby in it, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, for the simple reason that it gave us a human James Bond for the first time. He wasn't a smug killer. They actually humanized the character, and I really appreciated that. And so they'd be my three for the simple reason that that's the purest bloodline of James Bond films that there is. Those three cover what James Bond is and should be. No, I haven't read Cornwell Sharp novels or Sean Bean's TV films. Yeah, the ending of Her Majesty's Secret Service is incredible. Michael says, "What do I think of that German vampire Die Hard movie? What's it called? Blood Red Dawn or something like that? I liked it. I think it worked really well. I think that the interesting thing about vampires, like superheroes, is you can tell a whole bunch of different stories within that one framework. Same with westerns, and that one kind of worked for me. Blood Red Sky, that's what it was. Blood Red Sky. I really recommend that one if people are interested in vampire films. Absolutely. Didn't like Lazenby when younger. Now feel he's underrated, says Drew Albright. Yeah, I think he was. I think that he was badly advised by his management, who he was offered like $1 million to keep doing James Bond, and his management advised him poorly on that, and it killed his career. Do I think the future James Bond is a time period piece takes place in the 1950s? I think there's room for that. I think the limited series of 1950s set James Bond films, maybe for Netflix or one of the streaming services, would be fantastic. Middle-aged kid girl says, I love vampires, not the sparkly type, the real chomp types. Yeah, I know you do. You got a vampire collection that's quite impressive, middle-aged kid girl. Man from Snowy River isn't a western that has gunfights. It's more like Will Penny. Let's not mention the sequel. Yeah, it was bad. And again, it's part of that. Yeah, the James Broccoli family already said no, James Bond film. Yeah, the Man from a Snowy River. Again, it's that colonialist narrative, which is kind of out of touch with current thinking in Australia to a big extent. Michael Williams says, on Her Majesty's Secret Service also introduced the idea that the name James Bond was really a family of agents, not just one person. Not sure that it did. I think there was that little joke that was thrown in, but I think that maybe was an ill-considered move to put that joke in. It really um, kind of diminished the potential for that film. Yep, our ring bearer was a vampire at our wedding, middle-aged geek girl. She had a little vampire in a box that held the ring. So, yeah, Only Lovers Left Alive was a very weird vampire flick. Yeah, it was. There are so many of them. I mean, there's Near Dark, which is fantastic. The Catherine Bigelow movie, which I really recommend as well. There are just so many of them over the years. There's even a vampire western called Curse of the Undead from the 1950s that Columbia did with Michael Payton in it. Jamie Weston, I agree. There's so much from earlier days that I loved that are cringeworthy now. I think that that's actually a good sign. That even though it does make us cringe, I think it's a good sign that we've moved on and we've got a more nuanced view of a lot of things. I think that progress is promising for the human race. Jack S says, "Love Tilda." Nobody doesn't love Tilda. Let the Right One In. The original Let the Right One In is great. The remake I didn't like as much, but the original has a grittiness and a kind of reality to it that I really appreciated. Oh, yep. The Alan Moore version of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen books, a nasty piece of work who eventually gets its comeuppance. Yeah, I have read the graphic novels of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I recommend. For lovers of Luna, she's currently sound asleep near Sally and won't be popping up on the live stream. Oh, that's a shame, but she's got to get her rest. Uh, George Hamilton is a crap actor. But Billy the Kid versus Dracula, not a bad film. Well, it is a bad film, but it's an enjoyable bad film. Okay, let's see. Well, here we go. This one I've been deep diving into because I needed something to cheer myself up this week. And so I've got a top three for you. Top three Warner Brothers cartoons. Easy one to do. Top three are What's Opera Doc, where they did Wagner's Ring Cycle. It's a 7-minute cartoon with Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd in it. Second One Froggy Evening with Michigan J. Frog. That is a classic of cinema, let alone classic um, cartoon. And the third one, which is my absolute favorite, The Three Little Bops, which is the Three Little Pigs done as a jazz thing with a Big Bad Wolf. That is fantastic. And Shorty Rogers' music. The Three Little Bops is one of those cartoons that you can watch repeatedly and really enjoy. So it's What's Opera Doc, One Froggy Evening, and Three Little Bops. They are the top three Warner Brothers cartoons. Duck Muck doesn't rate compared to those ones. Duck Muck's good, and but the Three Little Bops, What's Opera Doc, and One Froggy Evening. Tex Avery's Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah, that was on the transgressive ones. There was a disc of transgressive cartoons. Three Little Bops. It was narrated by Stan Freberg. I don't know that it was written by him, but it was narrated by Stan Freberg. He's the guy doing the singing in it. Yeah, it really works in so many ways. And they even get a Liberace reference in there. So if people can rewatch the Three Little Bops, I think it's well worth doing. And it cheered me right up at a time this week when I needed cheering right up. Let's see. Brian Lindsay says a lot of people poo-pooed Thunderball because of the long underwater sequences. I think the big frogman battle at the climax was boffo. Nothing like it. That epic has been done since. Yeah, it is, and of course it was remade as Never Say Never Again, which I like for the fact that it showed an older Bond, and it came out when Roger Moore was doing those really ordinary Bond films, and then Connery comes back and does one last hurrah, and I think it works for that one. Did I listen to William Shatner's recent album? No, because I don't like William Shatner. Let's see. Jeff Martin says, I just had a Warner Brothers cartoon exhibition here in Rochester. Great sketches, work cells, and several cartoons. Cool. Jamie Weston says, the only Hamilton movie I enjoyed was the vampire one he did as Goofy and as Richard Benjamin in it, which makes it worth watching. Yeah. The only George Hamilton movie I like is The Power, which he did for George Powell, directed by Byron Haskin. That's the one I like. I think it's an underrated science fiction movie of the 1960s. So let's see what else we've got. I'm using up all my material fast, so I probably should slow down a little bit. Anybody have any other questions? I'll do some questions for a little bit while I kind of keep my notes here. Zorro, The Power's great, but Hamilton's the poorest thing about it. I agree, but it's still a good movie. I like the fact that they've got people like Aldo Ray in it and Yvonne De Carlo and anybody who they had under contract they could cram into that film. I'm gonna have to watch that. Slap Happy Lion, Bad Luck Blackie, and Ventriloquist Cat are the funniest cartoon shorts ever. Okay, I haven't seen those yet. Artie Johnson is in it too, along with several TV actors from the 70s. Artie Johnson, I like as an actor. He did a couple of serious roles at various times that were kind of fun. And Drew Albright, thank you for the super chat. Who are my favorite Japanese directors who aren't Kurosawa? I mean, you'd have to go. I like Pete Takeshi as a director. He did some samurai films that were really great. So, Takeshi Kitano, sorry, is one of my favorites. I also like, of course, no, I'm going to go blank on this because I haven't had enough coffee today. The guy who directed the Tora-san movies. Let me just look that up because that guy was really great, and I like the work he did. The Otoko wa Sorayo series with Kiyoshi Atsumi playing Tora-san. Yoji Yamada, that's the guy. Yoji Yamada, I really like. Daniel, I'll get you all one in a sec. I've got to pick a third Japanese director first, and that Japanese director, of course, would be. Let's see. Sorry about this. Hayao Miyazaki, of course. Miyazaki for all of the really great animation he did. Um, Daniel says, "Have I seen whatever cover the Noah, the post-apocalyptic movie from 1976? Haven't heard of it, but middle-aged geeko, can you put the Noah from 1976 down, and I'll see if I can find it. Let's see. How do those intrepid heroes and heroines, Lance Henriksen, After Dark? No, that was Near Dark. Kinji Fukasaku, absolutely. Kinji Fukasaku, I like as well as a Japanese director. I'm trying to get through these, so bear with me. Let's see. Falling Embers, 4 quid 49. Feelings about Sorcerer, Wages of Fear, and Hell Drivers. I like Wages of Fear. Sorcerer, I haven't seen in a very long time, and I really should revisit it. I didn't like it at the time I first saw it, but then I wasn't as smart as I am now. And Hell Drivers is one of the great hidden gems of late 1950s English cinema. It's such a movie packed with fantastic actors. It's got Patrick McGowan, it's got Stanley Baker, it's got Sean Connery, it's got Herbert Lom, it's got Sid James, and it's got a good story. Hell Drivers is fantastic. Wages of Fear I love because it's got a crazy grittiness about it and kind of emotional honesty. And the guys in it are just damaged, kind of marginalized people, and I really like that a lot. So yeah, thanks for reminding me about Wages. If you haven't seen Hell Drivers, Wages of Fear, and Sorcerer, definitely do so. Sorcerer, I'm going to have to revisit. So if middle-aged geek girl can write that one down, I'd be happy to. Mr. Genzi said, I recently watched Blade of the Immortal, directed by Takashi Miike. Very good adaptation of the anime. Yeah, I saw that too. Miike's stuff is great. At the end of the year, there's actually a bunch of, I think it's Takeshi Miike's yokai movies, a box set that's coming out. And I've got that on order from Zavi. So there are going to be a whole bunch of yokai movies coming out. Are there any other Peter Jackson movies aside Tolkien, Dead and Alive, and Good Taste? Yeah, Meet the Feebles was a Peter Jackson movie. Hell Drivers is amazing. What don't I like about William Shatner? I think that the mannered style of his acting I don't like. I don't like the fact that he's not honest enough to admit that he doesn't have any hair. And I think that he had potential as a serious actor that he's pissed away. That's why I don't like him. Duck Dodgers. Duck Dodgers is good sparkling cider, absolutely. Daniel Thron says, yeah, Sorcerer is my favorite freak and really amazing. And Drew Albright says, Mika has done so many movies in so many genres. Yeah, I like Itchy the Killer. That one is really great. Mr. DS Gen Z, have Sorcerer on Blu-ray, seen Hell Drivers last night on TV. Lucky you. Hell Drivers is just so fantastic. Did Kateshi do Zatoichi remake? He did, and he was great. Beat Takeshi is great. If you haven't seen a Beat Takeshi movie, you've got a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Sorcerer is called Wages of Sin in the UK. That's weird. What was that movie in Esperanto that Shatner did? Incubus. Ross Gilton says, Shatner is deeper than you think. Listen to his song, Real. No, maybe. Sonadine, yeah, Sonadine's very good. Also, Hanna-B, the one about fireworks, the Kishi, the Katana one. Shatner did Judgment at Nuremberg. Yeah, he did. He actually did Brothers Karamazov as well. And if you look at the Brothers Karamazov, he's got the worst wig of Shatner's career in it. Stanley Baker was in a great in Perfect Friday and Hell is a City. Yeah. I don't think Stanley Baker was bad in a movie. By the way, I do have a novelization of a movie that Stanley Baker was in. You ready for this? I'll do it in a moment. Who did Battle Royale? Was that Beat Takeshi? He was in it. Absolutely. Um, right at the start where he's playing the school teacher. He has a great scene in that. Sparkling Sunlight said, asked me about Cloud Atlas. I was less than enthused because it said it was for yellow face acting. Is that a term I never heard before? What's yellow face acting? It's kind of like Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, where white people are playing Asian people. Yellow face acting is not on. Hard boiled. Let's see. Battle Royale is Kinji Fukasaku. Yeah, he is. Shatner in Esperanto with a goat is marvel to behold. Mike's Yakuza Apocalypse is totally barking and enjoyable. Absolutely. But this is one of my favorite Stanley Baker movies, by the way. And I've got the novelization of it here. It's actually the novel upon which it was based. It's in a series of books by James Munro, who also did Callan. And there's a whole bunch of novels with the character of John Craig in it, who's a secret agent for the British Secret Service. It's Innocent Bystanders. Now, if you haven't seen this one, it did get a Blu-ray release in the UK. And Innocent Bystanders is a really nice late 70s, I think it is, spy movie with Stanley Baker, Geraldine Chapman. It's got Vladek Shabalin. It's got Warren Mitchell. It is really fantastic. Yep, Jill Ireland was in Hell Driver. She was also married to David McCallum before she was married to Charles Bronson. But Innocent Bystanders, if you get a chance to see this one, you should definitely see it. Let's see. I've got another one of the novels that Innocent Bystanders was based on. The Money That Money Can't Buy. These were done by James Munro, who made Callan, the TV series with Edward Woodward. And yeah, these are great stuff. Favorite Stanley Baker criminal, The Good Die Young in the French style. Yeah, absolutely. He was really great with Gene Seberg in the French style. The Prisoner TV series. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in favour of that one. We went to Port Merion when we were in the UK in 2004, and it was fun. Except Sally got food poisoning there, and she's hated it ever since. Time for a coffee break. Yeah, Patrick McGowan was interesting. If you watch some of the old Danger Man series as well, there's some really nice plots in there. Jeff Martin says, "I just got and watched Messiah of Evil. Nicely disturbing." Yeah, absolutely. It's a hidden gem of 1970s horror, Messiah of Evil. Any novelizations I bought blind without knowing anything about the movie. Innocent Bystanders I bought blind before I saw the movie. Cool books. To remember Man at the Top? Yeah, there was a TV series. There was also the movie with Lawrence Harvey in it, which cheesed off a lot of people because the British establishment didn't like up and coming working class guys reaching the top of business. There was a cultural thing that really cheesed off the toffs. Lee Lavery says we don't give food poison to all Australians in Wales, just the ones we like. Yeah, well, I mean, my mother's family is from Wales, so I was very much in favour of it. Yeah, Secret Agent Man in the US. Yeah, absolutely. That series with Patrick McGowan, most of it in wonderful black and white. It was great fun to watch. Yeah, Brian Patterson says Callum was great, cheap and rap. He said it's never reshot whenever we blew a line, and it was great. Yeah, Callum was great because it took the Harry Palmer idea a lot further in the working class. Paul Berger says I'm going to watch Captain America from 1990 tonight. Is there anything I should look for? Probably something for an upset stomach because it is pretty bad. Reb Brown was not a gifted actor. I bought Life of Pi without knowing anything about it in hardback and absolutely loved it. Yeah. I think one of the message here is to take a chance, take a punt at something you haven't tried before in movies or in books or anything else. You're going to find what your taste is a lot more by exploring than by just staying in the safe zone. Speaking of Kurosawa, there was a US remake of Rashomon called The Outrage, starring with G. Robinson, Lawrence Harvey, and Paul Newman with a young William Shatner as a priest. Yeah, it also had Claire Bloom in it as well, as I recall. But yeah, Brian Lindsay says opinions of Timothy Dalton's Bond. I think he was good. He was closest to the book Bond, and I think that he was nuanced as well. But Eon Films at the time had an idea about what Bond movies should be, and I think that they could have gone more into the gritty stuff and less into the one-liners. And I like Dalton's Bond because he's also the most romantic of the Bonds, which is kind of interesting. And I think it would have been nice to get more than two Bond movies out of Timothy Dalton, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, Port Merion's great as a place to visit. Ross Scotland says, I'm currently on a project to watch every Kirk Douglas film, Ace in the Hole and Champion of my top films. Bad and the Beautiful is up next. Yeah, Bad and the Beautiful is one of my all-time favourite movies. I also like the kind of semi-sequel to it, 2 Weeks in Another Town, which I recommend. It shows both ends of the Hollywood system. Good luck with the project, Ross. I think it's a great idea, and Kirk Douglas was an interesting guy. You should also read his autobiography, The Ragman's Son. A lot of interesting stuff in there as well. Lonely Are the Brave, absolutely. Lonely Are the Brave, I love. A man out of time, a man whose time has passed and he doesn't know it, and it's got that killer ending to it as well. Filmed in black and white. I don't think color would have added anything to it, but if people haven't seen Kirk Douglas in Lonely Are the Brave, definitely do it. It's really going to be worth your time. Neil Walker says, been watching a lot of free science fiction horror films from YouTube from the 40s to 70s. If you can get it, you might want to try Tubi.tv as well, Neil. There's a lot of good stuff there. Jimmy Fandango says, I'm a legend, I have to go to bed. Jimmy, sleep well. Dream of whatever you like. But go to bed if you need to, mate. Yeah, Gary 4983 says Lonely and Brave is great. It is. It's one of the unsung Kirk Douglas films, and I think that it really went interesting. Falling Ember says, watch Bowie and the Man Who Fell to Earth last night. What are my thoughts on his acting? I don't think it was his main skill set. I think there are things where he was good, but I don't know that as an actor he had the presence to be a really great film actor as a star. Yeah, Sparkling Star. Yeah, Yellowface is bad. The thing is that there are so many Asian actors who are good, and of course, Simu Liu proves that with Shang Chi. All of the stuff I've seen so far, having not seen Shang Chi, says that he's great in it and he can carry the movie. And to go from doing a Canadian sitcom to doing a major Marvel film and carrying the film well, along with Tony Leung and all the other people that are in it, is great. Bowie's only other coming. No, he was in Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. He was also fairly interesting playing Tesla in The Prestige. So yeah. Have you seen a good copy of 1948's I Love Trouble? All the copies seem to be made of the same horrible copy. No, I haven't, unfortunately. Bowie was in Fire Walk with Me, absolutely. Yep. Have I seen Rondo Hatton in The Creeper? Yeah, Rondo Hatton, because of the acromegaly that he had, is a great film presence. And of course, the Rondo Awards are the horror awards that are given out every year, and they're a kind of Easter Island statue of Rondo Hatton as well. Yep, if they don't yellowface and they're whitewashed like The Last Airbender and Eon Flux, absolutely. Labyrinth is creepy because David Bowie kind of creeping out on a teenage girl is more than a little creepy. So Labyrinth for me is kind of difficult watch these days. The Halloween Mask of Tor Johnson was a bestseller for decades, yeah. And these days it's the Halloween Mask of Kevin Spacey and Louis C.K. I'm thinking out of shot, am I? This is that chair you gave me. That's what that is. Hang on a sec. Let me just adjust the chair. There we go. Sound's back. Here we go. Nathaniel said I watched the Siege of Pinch Cut for the first time a couple of days ago. It's rare for a film shot in Australia to have the ambition of scale of that fine film. Absolutely. The Siege of Pinchgut I love because every time I visited Sydney Harbour as a child, I could go to Pinchgut. Anybody remember the incredible Strange Film Show with Jonathan Ross from the 1990s? I've got the book of that, Straffen Wilder. And it's great. Yep. So here we go. We've got sounds. Now we've got. I didn't unplug, but I'll show you what I did. See, there is a mute button, and it can bump accidentally. So if I go like, but now you can hear me again. But yeah, I'm back. Yay! So yeah, technical issues. That's the thing with live streaming. You're going to get technical issues. Here we go. I'm going to do another top three because you've all been so nice. Top three Saturday morning Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Did anybody else watch those Saturday morning cartoons in the 60s when Hanna-Barbera ruled the roost? And yep, so the top three Hanna-Barbera cartoons. The Herculoids, which was fantastic. Zoc the Laser Dragon, Igu the Rock Ape, Gloop and Gleep, and Tundro the Tremendous was absolutely the best amongst these three at least. So you've got the Herculoids number one, Johnny Quest number two. Johnny Quest was fantastic. Was just so iconic. Had that great Hood Curtain soundtrack to it, and the plots were great, and the monsters were great, and it looked fantastic. It was amongst the best looking of the Hanna Barbera cartoons. not Captain Caveman Sally, middle-aged good girl. And number three was Shazam with the giant genie Shazam and the two kids trying to get back home. Shazam was always fun for me. And I like the fact that they had a flying camel called Kabubi. That was always good. Yeah, the sound design in the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, Gary, was fantastic. Thunder the Barbarian wasn't. I think that was Filmation did Thunder. But I'm a big fan of Ukla the Mock. But Johnny Quest was great and the Great Ape. I mean, there were so many good Hanna-Barbera cartoons at the time. There was Mighty Mitor. There was all sorts of things. Jackass has a Blu-ray of Johnny. I've got the DVD of Johnny Quest and also of the Herculoids. Shazam hasn't been released, unfortunately. Yeah, the Jetsons were fun. Thunder the Barbarian, Princess Ariel, and Ukla the Mock. Um, was the HB Olympics from the 1970s? I think it was, but it was very much a lesser work. I kind of liked the Adventure series more than anything. I can't remember if Rocket Robin Hood was HB. No, it wasn't. It was made by a Canadian company. I think Grant Ray did it in Canada. But Rocket Robin Hood was a lot of fun. I did a video of cartoons way back early in the channel where I mentioned that. Um, the Venture Brothers animated television show is a fantastic send up with Johnny Quest. Yeah, definitely recommend the Venture Brothers. I've got a Brock Sampson T-shirt in the back room. I was wearing it yesterday. So if anybody hasn't seen the Venture Brothers, they really should. There's a theory that the Jetsons and the Flintstones live in the same world after a nuclear holocaust. Yeah, I've heard that one as well. Hanna-Barbera Godzilla. There's also a King Kong one that was done, a Japanese anime that was dubbed into English of King Kong in the 1960s as well. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is the best character. Absolutely. Um, that one looks like spam cell, that webcamschat.com. So if you can get rid of those. Yep, there was a Jetsons Flintstones crossover. There was, and there was a great kazoo in it as well. But boy, which would enjoy more, films of the 70s or the 80s? I think that basically it depends on the films. It really, give me a sec. Just got to do something here. We're getting some spam bots hitting us. Won't be a sec. There, I think I've got rid of that. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is great. All of the characters are great. Johnny Quest turns up as a middle-aged junkie in that as well. Men's hair in the 1970s film was too distracting. Yeah, there was a weird thing. If you notice this on television as well, there were so many comb-overs in 1970s American television and movies where the guys comb over the bald spots. And we notice it a lot, particularly given that mine's kind of bald at the crown. Brian Patterson, any insights on what makes an actor worth watching? For example, I watched Ian McShane and Keith Carradine for decades, thought they were terrible until they turned up in Deadwood. Here's the thing. I think that there are actors who are actors because they want to be famous, and there are actors who want to be actors because they want to be actors. And in a lot of cases, the actors who are most worth watching started out in theatre. They've got the training down pat, or else they've had interesting lives. I mean, Mitchum never had any Robert Mitchum never had any formal training, but he had a tough life at the start. And he got to the stage early where he cared about what he did, but he didn't want people to know that he cared about what he did. And so he was kind of interesting from that point of view. I think that adversity in life can sometimes make for a good actor, male or female. And the women, of course, have a very different kind of adversity than the men do. And I think the character shows people who really love what they do and love it for the doing of it rather than for what it rewards them with makes a difference. And there are any number of character actors who come to the fore later in life. I mean, Jean Smart at the moment is on a roll and she's in her late 60s. It doesn't really matter when somebody becomes really great. I mean, look at Titus Welliver, who does Bosch. Jobbing character actor for decades, and then he gets that one role that really lets him shine and show what he can do as an actor. Yeah. Robert Mitchum was in a chain gang at one point, absolutely, and he was jailed for marijuana possession early in his movie career. It only made him more successful. Breakfast at Midnight says, "Does the time of day or time of year impact my viewing habits, like genre-wise?" Sorry, I keep scratching my face, but it's itchy. Not particularly. I go through phases of liking certain genres and following down the rabbit hole of certain actors' careers or certain directors and things like that. But I don't think it's based on the time of year particularly. It's not like I watch beach party movies only in the summertime. But I do go down and kind of have these moments of passion where I watch lots of stuff. At the moment, I'm watching spaghetti westerns because I'm going to be doing a video in the future about spaghetti westerns, and I've got a box set of four of them. And there's a different aesthetic to kind of B grade spaghetti westerns, not the Sergio Leone's, but the ones down from Sergio Leone. That's kind of interesting. Keith Carradine was good in The Duelists, and Mitchum was great in The Friends of Eddie Coyle. British actors do all theatre, TV, and movies. Not much of that in the States. Yeah, there is a little bit. The interesting thing is that, and this is showing up in England as well. When the theatres started shutting down, a lot of stage actors in the UK moved on to doing kind of cinema and TV and streaming projects. So a lot of the supporting cast in series like Ted Lasso, which is on Apple Plus, and I recommend, were British stage actors, and suddenly they get this kind of role in TV stuff, and people go, "Geez, these are good actors. I want to see more of these people." And they were on the stage for, in some cases, decades, and then suddenly they become prominent, and it really does warm my heart to see that. William Marshall, yeah, absolutely. William Marshall in Blackula, he did Shakespeare for a long time. He did a whole bunch of things, and then suddenly he gets some prominence. Oh, I was surprised when I saw Ian McShane. You mean The Last of Sheila, I think. Luna's sleeping currently with on the desk next to middle-aged geek girl. But yeah, McShane I liked. He was also in Villain, playing um, Richard Burton's boyfriend in an early role. He was very good in that one as well. Ian McShane did a whole bunch of really good stuff early in his career and later in his career as well. And all credit to him. I think that he's an interesting actor. Blackula, I like Blackula and Scream, Blackula, Scream. I've got a movie poster of Blackula over there, which I really like. Do I prefer film critics of YouTubers or the more traditional newspaper ones, Breakfast at Midnight? I think it depends. I don't think it's the medium. I think it's what people say and how they say it that makes a difference. I grew up reading newspaper columns. I grew up reading books by Pauline Kael and Roger Ebert and people like that. I think that whether somebody's got something to say and how they say it, and whether their viewpoint is their own or whether it's determined by the market is what matters. One of the things that's becoming a very much a discussion on the tech YouTuber space is people who are shills for Apple and the camera companies and all the other people, and people who give honest reviews. There's a definite border dispute there for people who will gush over every Apple product regardless of whether there are flaws in it, and the people who open things and do things honestly. And I think that's more of the important criterion when you're doing anything like what I do or like what other reviewers do. Your integrity is your product. Being honest about things, saying what you like and saying what you don't like, even if it does piss off some of the audience. You've got to stay true to yourself. You've got to stay true to what you believe. And just because somebody gives you something, which I haven't had, by the way, I think that it's less important than staying true to yourself and staying true to what you believe and staying true to what you learn about the medium. Favorite live action Jerry Anderson series, UFO. Do you find you like watching certain films at certain times? Friday nights are good for 30s black and white movies. For me, Dealey, it's less of an issue because I'm retired now, so I can watch movies any bloody time I like. If I want to build down three espressos and watch them all night, I'll watch them all night. It's lucky for me that I'm in that position now. But for a long time, I wasn't, and I had to kind of ration my movie watching less than I do now. But it's a nice place to be, and I hope all of you get there. Um, yeah, people should subscribe to Middle Aged Geek Girl's channel if you want to see more of Luna. She's in there all the time because she puts her ass on whatever Sally is doing in her channel. Ian McShane in Ransom, yep, with Sean Connery. I've got the Blu-ray of that, and I watched it last year. It's really great. Nathaniel, what do I find to be the perfect length for a film? I think it depends on the movie, Nathaniel. And thanks for dropping in on the live stream, mate. I appreciate that. I think that movies have a natural length, stories have a natural length. And I think that whatever the length the story itself demands, without padding and without cutting out important points, is what matters. There are going to be stories that require 3 hours, like Avengers Endgame definitely did. And there are also going to be stories like La Jetée, which require 24 minutes to tell the story in a beautifully concise and interesting package. It depends on the story. Story is all. Yeah, there was some misogyny in UFO because it was from the 1970s, but I like the mise en scène. I like the style. I like the futuristic look to it. And I like the fact that it showed Jerry Anderson pivoting to slightly more adult stuff. Space Precinct, no way. Space Precinct was, how what do we call it in Australian? Bad. I think there was also a series called Space Cops. And if you look at one of the early episodes of Space Cops, you'll see Idris Elba's first role. Ian McShane was in the second episode of Space 1999. Yeah, well, you got to make a buck. And he did Lovejoy for a long time in the 1970s. By the way, the Lovejoy novels are worth reading. If you ever want to learn anything about antiques, that was it. Did I finally find both seasons of Chopper Squad? No, I didn't. Saturday afternoon is best for martial arts and 1950 science fiction. Classic goth chillers are best viewed at night with the lights low. Okay, here we go. Let's see. We have to get rid of some bots here. Okay, it won't be a sec. I'll just hide that person from the channel. Ah, getting hit by bots. Hopefully, I've done that. Star Cops. Hang on. Let's have a look here. Anyone else say on Pauline Kael versus Orson Welles regarding his contribution to Citizen Kane? I'm not sure where the truth lies there. I know that Mankiewicz was responsible for a lot of it. Pauline Kael had her opinion on it, but I like the movie Mank. I think that's David Fincher's movie. I think that's a really great explanation of things. I think that the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and I think that both Wells and Mankiewicz contributed enormously to it, as did Greg Toland, the cinematographer, and a bunch of other people as well. I think that it's one of those questions the movie buffs are going to be asking for the next century. Do I remember a show called Quark about a garbage spaceship? Yeah, I think it was released on DVD at some stage in the last decade with Richard Benjamin in it. It also had Tim Thomerson, who people remember and love from things like Trances. Yeah, it was silly and kind of sexist as well, but a bit of fun. Bad but campy is covers what. Just let me just see if I can change the chat settings so we don't get spammed by bots. It might be a sec. Just gonna try to tweak this thing. Let's have a look here. Yeah, I'm going to change the settings next time we do a live stream. I don't want any of that crap coming in there. Cows seem to have a personal animus and attempting to music awesome, but agree the truth lies in the middle. Yeah, she was wrong on a number of things. She was wrong about movies I like The Young Girls of Rochefort, where she said that Jacques Demy didn't understand American musicals, whereas he did, but he just decided to do one with a French flavour to it. Dark Shadows, never got into Dark Shadows that much. Is Space Cops the RLM film? I'm not sure what that means. Steampunk Dracula series only ran one season. Yeah, I did, but the thing is that Dracula's in the public domain now. Am I falling down again? Um, Dracula's in the public domain, so anybody can do anything with Dracula at the moment. You can make Dracula into a rent boy if you want to. It's just in the public domain, as I said. But let's see. What harsh reactions are kind of amusing, like Cruel Intentions, play by play. Yeah, I'm going to try to avoid them. Red Letter Media, I like. Have I mentioned films coming up on my watch list? Yes, I've actually got my watch list. I've got the list of the next videos I'm doing, Nathaniel. So let's see what I got here. Uh, let's see what I've got coming up. I'm doing the spaghetti westerns coming up. The box set of spaghetti westerns I just got. I'm doing offbeat private eye movies. That's another one I'm doing, which is going to have things like The Long Goodbye and The Big Fix in it. I'm going to be doing some science fiction movies from the last 25 years that I really liked. When I can, I'm going to review Shang-Chi and Dune on the channel. I've got a video coming up on New Zealand comedies that are a bit obscure and a little bit of hidden gems that I like. I'm doing one on Poverty Row horror films from the 30s and 40s. I'm doing some Netflix action movies as well, obscure World War II movies. I've got a few things coming up. Falling Emma says, what was the first film media you owned and in what format? I had a VHS copy of Kismet, the musical, with Howard Keel and Catherine Grayson in it. That was the first one. First DVD I had was The Talented Mr. Ripley, which I bought before I had a DVD player. Phoenix 5, did the cast do anything else? Only television, only obscure TV series. Mike Dorsey, who was in Phoenix 5, did number 96, the soap opera for a while, but apart from that, nothing. A Massacre Time is kind of nuts. Yeah, absolutely, Brian. That's one of the movies in the box set I've got. And I will be talking about Massacre Time, Lucio Fulci's one. Offbeat Private Eyes. I'm going to do a number of them. I've got a few of them there. Time to rewatch My Man Godfrey. Absolutely. Empire Strikes Back. Unfortunately, it's full of mold. Earlier VHS films used to cost about 70 quid. They did. Near me, there was a VHS warehouse when I was living in Glebe in Sydney. There was a small warehouse that sold on to video stores. And new videos cost a lot of money. They were about $70 each. Though for me, there was a great big stack, and they're all lined up on the floor of VHS movies, which were ex rentals that had been returned to the warehouse. And they were flogging those up for $5 each. So I got a lot of my movies in VHS days by going to that place. Did I have Laserdiscs? No, Laserdiscs were never that big here in Australia. Did I ever dabble in any filmmaking? Only on YouTube. Which streaming services do I use besides Netflix or Apple TV? I don't have Apple TV, but I do have Stan, which is an Australian one. I also have Amazon Prime. I've got Tubi. We've got BritBox, which is a whole bunch of British stuff, but we're getting rid of that one. And I'd love to have the Criterion channel, but I haven't got around to getting a VPN yet. Heavenly Creatures was a New Zealand film, which Peter Jackson did, and it's a good film. It's a really solid piece of drama. The Island of Dr. Moreau. What's the hate about? Um, which version? The Burt Lancaster one or the Marlon Brando one? Just going to have a drink now because talking. Is Blake Seven still on BritBox? It's only just gone onto BritBox here in Australia, at least. What would I Criterion immediately if I could? Criterion are doing so well with their stuff. I think a box set of the Ginger trilogy, Girls Are for Loving, Ginger, and the Abductors. I think that'd be a very transgressive Criterion box, so it may more be suited to Severin films or maybe one of the other fringe groups. Nathaniel says Canopy, which can access via library cards, has a selection of Criterion titles. It does. I really got to get into more of Canopy, which I have access to. I've got my library card. I've got a login for Canopy as well. Will they remake Blake 7? Why? It wasn't that good. It was a cop show that they decided to suddenly pivot into a space show because of Star Wars. Yeah, and the interesting thing about Canopy is they send out a recommendation email every weekend for things you can watch on the weekend. And there are some really great films there. Got to be careful with the mute button there. Let's see. Let me have a look at my lists. Done that, done that, done that. Okay, we don't have any more top threes, I don't think. But here we go. Movie-related books. I'll go back to movie-related books. I used to have more of these novels, but Blake Seven, yeah, Blake Seven, blah blah blah. I would never like Blake Seven. Sorry, Nathaniel. Shaft, Ernest Tidyman's original novel Shaft. There's a movie tie-in Corgi version of it. But if you're interested in Shaft, there were more Shaft novels that Ernest Tidyman did. Shaft Among the Jews, which is him in the Jewish Diamond District of New York. Shaft's Carnival of Killers, which was set in the Caribbean. Shaft Has a Ball, and there's also the last Shaft where Ernest Tidyman killed off Shaft at the end of the novel. But if you haven't read them, they are quite groovy, and I'm keep trying to find the ones I don't have of the Shaft novels. But they're very much written. Ernest Tidyman was a white man, but he definitely had connections in the black community in New York. But yeah, Criterion did a great Blu-ray of Quiet Anne, very nice and clean. I love Quiet Anne. Under the Lost Souls scared the shit out of me. The Fletch novels are awesome too. Yeah, they are. They're better than the movie in some ways, which Chevy Chase kind of enhanced with his own things. The Revenge of the Sith book was really good. It's a shame how crappy the movie was. Well, yeah, I'm not a Star Wars fan, so that's it. Adaptations to short stories. My favorite is The Monkey Paw. I kind of like. I just got to remember the name of it. Just give me a few moments. Just looking something up, so I apologize. I know what it is. Favorite short story adaptation. And here we go. We got more bots. So I'm going to get rid of those suckers. Okay, let me see. Get rid of the bots. I am definitely going to have to filter better next time. Let me have a look here. Adaptation of short stories. The Falling Embers. The Dead. John Huston's movie, The Dead. Now, if you haven't read the original James Joyce story, it's one of the great short stories of the English language. And I recommend that one. I think it's a great adaptation of the short story. And it's a very subtle film. I think it may have been John Huston's last movie as a director. If you haven't seen The Dead, it's definitely great. Most cutting thing Bill Murray ever yelled at Chevy Chase, moderate talent. Yeah, I love Bill Murray. He was never a bullshit artist. Do you think the Lee Falk Phantom was more popular in Australia than he was in America? Yeah, the Phantom comics came out. Gordon and Gotch produced them a lot. If you went to a comic anywhere that sold comics in the 60s and 70s, it was full of Phantom comics, and people loved it. And yeah, the Phantom's got a big following here in Australia. My good friend Trevor has an enormous Phantom collection. Did any of the Fletch reboot names interest me? Jason Lee, Zach Braff, John Hamm? Probably not. I think you need somebody with a lot more attitude. Still waiting for a great Phantom movie. I don't think you're going to get one, but the one with Billy Zane has a certain charm to it. Novelizations. I've also got another one here, which is kind of a deep cut obscurity. There was a novelization of Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, which I hated as a movie because it copped out on the ending. But I got the novelization because I pick them up whenever I can find them. It's a kind of interesting comedy. I think Robert Culp's very good, Ellie Gould's very good, Natalie Wood and Diane Cannon. But yeah, I think it definitely didn't stick the landing. The other ones that are interesting, and I've only got two of these. There are three novelizations of this. Island of Dr. Moreau, 1990. Richard Stanley beats up girlfriends of his, so Richard Stanley can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. Billy Zane in Dead Calm, best Australian movie of all time. No, it's not. Newsfront's the best Australian movie of all time. Bob and Carol Taylor Alice was not a good film. How would I have liked them to end? I would have liked for them to have slept together. I think that it really copped out. Looks like Tarantino's latest book cover. I've got Tarantino's cover. I've got his novel as well. I've got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the novel, and I just like reading a chapter every now and then because there's lots of gossip about old Hollywood in it, and it is quite charming. And it's kind of deep into movie references from the 1960s. Doug Trumbull's Brainstorm feels fractured, but a lot of fun. Absolutely, I covered Brainstorm in a previous year. If you haven't read this, you should read this. Roderick Thorpe's novel of Die Hard. This novel is a sequel to a novel he did called The Detective, which was made into a Frank Sinatra movie in the late 1960s. And it stars the same character. John McClane's not in the original novel. Joe Leland is a character in the original novel, and he's much older than Bruce Willis was, and he still has to do these heroic things, and it tears him apart physically to do it. The novel is actually better than the movie. And if you get a chance to get a copy of Roderick Thorpe's novel Die Hard, it's a solid read. You really should check it out if you get a chance to. And I've got the Die Hard with a Vengeance. I've got the novelization of that as well, which there was a second one as well, but I didn't get that. But I kind of like having those ones. Let's have a look at the stream. That's Douglas Thomas Brainstorm. Got Bangkok Hilton. Yeah, that was okay. Yeah, poor little white girl does the wrong thing, goes to jail. Road Games is great fun. Richard Franklin's Road Games. Young Einstein was not the best movie of all time. I rewatched it for my radio gig about a year ago, and we agreed that it was pretty ordinary. Is the novel a Christmas novel? No, it's not. Did someone mention Dead Calm? It's a great hidden gem. It is, but it's not the greatest Australian movie of all time. Die Hard's the best Christmas movie ever. Yep. I used to do Die Hard for the radio every year as a Christmas movie, just as we finished the year on my ABC radio gig. And then we stopped doing it. So this year, Michaela and I have decided to do another Christmas movie for our movie review at the end of the year. And that movie is a very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, which I like a lot. So we're going to do that one for our Christmas movie this year. Yeah, Road Games is on Blu-ray. Yep, it is. I think Umbrella Entertainment have put it on Blu-ray. How do you do Die Hard for the radio? Discussion, dramatization. Well, yeah, we reviewed it basically, and we talk about why it works. We talk about the way the plot is structured, and how at the end of the film it ties up about 7 or 8 plot threads in about a minute and a half, and does them all well. It's an interesting script, and I think a really, really instructive one for people that are interested in how scripts are structured in Hollywood films. But yeah, uh, we used to, Rebecca McLaren and I used to do it all the time. Original Long Weekend, yeah, absolutely, with Bronnie Behetz and John Hargreaves. Definite hidden gem of Australian horror. It's also about relationship disintegration at the same time. And it's about how white Australia has a very fraught relationship with the bush. There's a subtext there that not everybody from other places may get. But yeah, I definitely recommend Long Weekend if people want to. Look at an Australian movie they might not have seen before. I think Colin Eggleton wrote the script for it, and it really is well done. There are any number of good ones out there. There's a thing called Libido, which, if you can find, is a really interesting Australian movie, which is a bunch of 3 vignettes, which are very well done. Carl Bunker says, novelisation, Fantastic Voyage is fun. Asimov was hired to do a novelisation. He struggled with some of the scientific and logical flubs in the movie. Yeah. Monteval says, I'm looking forward to receiving my copy of Bitter Springs in about 3 weeks. Yeah, Bitter Springs is really interesting from a viewpoint of that discussion that we're still having with First Nations people here in Australia. It really is the start of, well, towards the start of that conversation. And if people haven't seen Bitter Springs, you should really see it. Let's have a look here. I'll have a drink while I'm waiting for the thing to refresh. Let's see what else I've got. I've got a whole stack of them here. I'll go through these ones fast. Do I think John McTiernan got railroaded? Not particularly. I think that John McTiernan did the wrong thing and got caught. I find madness. If you've never seen Sean Connery's movie, the most miscast Sean Connery ever. Indie Phantom, yeah, hi, how you doing? I find madness has Sean Connery playing a New York poet, and he's miscast. It's also got Gene Seberg in it, Joanne Woodward, and a bunch of other character actors. It's an interesting film to see, but it's not Connery's best by any means. You can see him struggling. It's one of those movies he got made because they wanted to keep him on as James Bond, so he did a deal with them. More than Zardoz, believe me, this one is more than Zardoz miscast. But it is a fun movie. Here's the novelization of a movie that I really should talk about on the channel at some stage. The Stuntman. This is actually the novel upon which it was based. One of Peter O'Toole's greatest roles. Mike says from Liverpool, favourite Australian movies: Walkabout, The Overlanders, and Australia. Australia's a piece of shit. But Overlanders and Walkabout, absolutely. Yeah, he wasn't miscast in Darby O'Gill and the Little People. But yeah, The Stuntman, Peter O'Toole, Steve Railsback, and Barbara Hershey. Definitely a good film, and the book's pretty good too. Let's have a look here. Original Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was turned into Blade Runner, very much different from Blade Runner and very much funnier. So you should read the original, just keeping Blade Runner out of your mind when you do so. Really an interesting book from the early 1960s. Got a few genre ones here as well. The Pan novelization of Moon 02, the Hammer science fiction western set on the moon. Yeah, they put out a lot of these, but this one's actually in fairly good shape. I'm quite pleased with the shape this one's in. Moon 02 is a crazy movie, and I may well do it for a future video. There we go. Another one, Phase 4. There's a novelization of Phase 4 by Barry Malzberg, who was a solid science fiction novel writer. And Phase 4 is a really interesting film as well. Yeah, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is a great title, absolutely. But if you haven't seen Phase 4, you should really check it out as well. Really interesting movie, and the novelization is quite good as well. Escape from the Planet of the Apes. The novelization was done by Jerry Pournelle, who's a science fiction writer. It's the only one of the Planet of the Apes movies that I've got the book of, apart from the original. What does Australian cinephile feel about Wim Wenders Until the End of the World and its depiction of Australia? I think it's flawed but honest. Hey, Anthony, how you doing, man? Okay, thank you. Keep going. People should check out Anthony's channel as well, where he reviews a lot of stuff that I don't like, but he does it very honestly and very well. Do I read all of these? I have at some stage. I've had these for decades. Long time since I watched Phase 4. It was scary when you're about 10 years old. You should rewatch it, Andreas. Definitely. The Occupation series of movies, they're on my list for the future. I'm going to do the two Occupation movies, Occupation and Occupation Rainfall. I'm doing those ones. And there was actually a novelization of Children of the Damned, which was the sequel to Village of the Damned. And it's a little more honest in its depiction of the relationship between the two male protagonists. Falling Ember says thoughts on Stone from 1974. I can go with that. Stone is the great Australian biker film. I loved it when I first saw it in cinemas in the 1970s. I've got the Blu-ray now. I upgraded from the DVD I had, and it is solid and honest, and it sticks the landing as well. It doesn't cop out on the worldview of the bikers, and I love the use of Sydney locations in Stone. If you haven't seen Stone, the Australian biker film, you should really see it. It's gritty yet honest. Sandy Harbour worked for 2 years in advertising to pay to make the movie, and I really like it. Yeah, Cars at 8 Paris, absolutely. Cars at 8 Paris, I like. Yep, Escape punched by weight and social commentary despite crap budget. Yeah, Escape from the Planet of the Apes works, absolutely. Just sub to Anthony, any movie locations you'd like to visit in person? Me? What movie location would I like to visit in person? Ooh, let me think. Possibly the Devil's Tower from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There are some locations in Shibuya in Japan I want to go to where they filmed the Tora-san movies. Didn't get to that part of Tokyo when I went there because I didn't know about Tora-san when we went to Tokyo. But I want to go. It's not Shibuya. We went to Shibuya. There's a little kind of suburb of Tokyo where all of the Tora-san movies were filmed, and I want to go there. Moon Zero 2 is on YouTube. Rewatched it recently. The animated opening sequence doesn't fit the rest of the film. No, it doesn't. It's very much like The Mouse That Roared and those kind of films. I'll do some more novelizations as well while we've got a little time. Original novel upon which a famous movie was based. Psycho, Robert Bloch's original novel, which is in some ways better than the movie. Really interesting book. Robert Bloch was a great horror writer. And this, of course, is the Corgi edition from the 1970s. But it's worth reading if you haven't. And it definitely is something that's good to spend time with. Now, these ones I want to get more of, but they're crazy expensive. And any horror fan worth their salt wants this one. The second Hammer Horror Omnibus, which are short novelizations of Hammer horror films from the 60s and early 70s. In this one, you've got The Reptile, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, Rasputin, the Mad Monk, and The Plague of the Zombies. Finding these is incredibly hard and they're crazy expensive. They're hundreds of dollars to find these now. And I used to have them way back in the day and lost them. But this one I refound at a reasonable price about a decade ago. And John Burke did all of these novelizations. There are about three or four of the Hammer Horror omnibuses. And if you can find them at all, grab them because they're going to more than pay you back. This is one of my treasures of my novelization collection. Yep, Plague of the Zombies is great. I like Plague of the Zombies. Here's another one which goes way back. This is a 1950s version of it. Shibamata, I apologize. Shibamata, that's what it was. Thank you, middle-aged good girl. Do I think younger film fans are excited by Hammer, the cheesiness, the low gore output? I think it depends on the person. I think that people can go with the quaintness of them. And I know some younger film fans that definitely like horror films. There you go. There was originally a novel by Theo von Harbour of Metropolis. She worked with her then husband. To make that. I've gone totally blank. I apologize. And I should remember. But yeah, there was a Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang's Metropolis was actually a novel as well, and this is the English adaptation of it. Yeah, there were similar omnibuses of the original Star Trek series. James Blish did them, and they were quite good. But yeah, Fritz Lang. Yeah, thank you, Fritz Lang. It's been a long morning, and don't think I've had enough coffee. But there you go, Metropolis. There's a novel of that as well. This one's a bit interesting. I got this for nothing because it was in the free book pile at a bookstore. Quatermass 2 by Nigel Neal. This is not a novel. This is actually the script in book form of Quatermass 2 by Nigel Neal. There's a picture of Nigel Neal with a biography on the back. Got this for nothing. I'm amazed. Sparkling Insano says, speaking of Frank Sinatra, did I originally... Yeah, Frank Sinatra wanted to play Dirty Harry. Of course he did, because he was an arsehole like Dirty Harry is. Yeah, collection of short stories include Farewell to the Master at 8 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely. Omnipresence of Orange. Yeah, all of the Penguin books were orange. And there's the Nigel Neal Quatermass that the TV miniseries was based on. So what's the prize of my adaptation collection? Probably the Hammer Horror Omnibus because of the rarity and because of the fact you get 4 movies in one. Yeah, where he says try again. Absolutely. I don't like Brian Donlevy playing Quatermass. I think that Andre Morel was a much better Quatermass. But here we go. We're getting the bots again. I'll get rid of those. Let's see. Report them. Haven't had this before. I may have changed the setting that allows these assholes to show up there. Yep. Let's see. I'll go with a couple of others. I've got a few more. In fact, I've got a lot more. But we're running a little short of time. Oh, yeah. This one I'll definitely do. Remember last video I mentioned The Wild Party as a movie which was based on a novel? Oh, it's based on a poem, sorry. I found my copy of it, William Moncure March's original poem, which has drawings by Art Spiegelman. Now, this is a great one if you can find it. Let me just see. Queenie was a blonde and her age stood still, and she danced twice daily in vaudeville. Grey eyes, lips like coal aglow. Her face was a tinted mask of snow. What hips, what shoulders, what a back she had. Legs were built to drive men mad. It's a great poem. And I definitely like that. Well, Drew, the 1980 Quatermass wasn't post-apocalyptic as much as causing the apocalypse. But The Wild Party is a great poem. See you, Paul. Take care. Thank you for dropping along. Do I have a favourite Lecter project after Silence of the Lambs? No, not particularly. I think Hannibal is bad. Not my, I think once you've got the character, you've got the character. I like the Brian Cox version of Hannibal Lecter as much as I like the Anthony Hopkins one. The one from Manhunter. But yeah, Breakfast of Nice. Just watched a Wild Party last night on YouTube. Great. Good night, James. Take care, mate. Easy Rider. This is not a novelization of Easy Rider. This is the script with a whole bunch of pictures in book form. Now, I'm not going to mess around with this too much because it's a little bit fragile, but I picked that up, and it's a kind of rare book. It's also got an interview with Peter Fonda by Rolling Stone. It's got an article about the soundtrack. It's got an introduction, and it's got some writings by Dennis Hopper in it. Any photo comics? No, I don't. Brian Cox from just up the road from me, Neil Walker, says that's cool. But yeah, the one with John Mills wasn't post-apocalyptic. It was during the apocalypse. The radio signals were causing it. I watched it only a year or so ago. Let me see what else I've got here. Wolf Mankiewicz's novel of Espresso Bongo. If you haven't seen Espresso Bongo, you should check that out. Have I seen Rams with Sam Neill? No, Gary, I haven't, though I believe it's an adaptation of a French film, so it's a remake. Yeah. Yeah, Terry Southern, Candy is a guilty pleasure. There's another Terry Southern novel I've got somewhere, which is kind of interesting as well. Espresso Bongo, yeah, he was annoying. Absolutely, Lawrence Harvey was annoying in that. And it's one of the few good film roles by Cliff Richard. But yeah, I like the cover of that as well. The cover is great. It's one of the short stories in there, so I picked that up only recently, that one. Let's see what I've got here. We're getting to for the 5-minute mark. Aha, timely as hell. How about this one? Patrick Hamilton's original Gaslight. Gaslighting, of course, is something that's very much on the front foot of culture at the moment. And here's the original novel with a picture of Ingrid Bergman on it and Charles Boyer. I like this one. It's a nice version of it too. Let's see what else I got. The World of Susie Wong with Nancy Kwan and William Holden. I've got the novel of that, which again is a fairly fragile one. It's a Fontana paperback with some stills from the movie on it as well. Evan Hunter's The Blackboard Jungle. Yeah, I have the Magic Christian. That's the one in Monteval. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's the one I've got. So there's a Blackboard Jungle. Earliest film adapted to a novel? I'm not sure, but let me think. Metropolis would be up there. A favourite adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe book or poem? I like the Vincent Price Poe adaptations that he did with Corman, and I've just got a box set of those, and they're all fun. They are quite loosely based on it in some ways, but I just have a fondness for the rich Technicolor look of them, and the fact that Vincent Price is the perfect actor to do Poe. Can we get a live stream a week? Possibly not. I'll try to keep it to one a month, and if I might even do some random live streams as well. Which is the best, Last Man on Earth, Omega Man, or I Am Legend? Last Man on Earth. I think the Price one is truest to the novel, and it's one of Vincent Price's best horror roles because of the anguish the character goes through. Heidi from 1920, which is pics from the silent movie. Absolutely, Cindy Appian. Yeah, that one is great. That has got the best voiceover ever. By the way, I found my copy of Nightmare Alley, William Lindsay Gresham's novel. I talked about Nightmare Alley a week ago, and I found my copy of the original novel, which is kind of cool. I'll go through this quickly. Abby Mann's Book of Judgment at Nuremberg with Spencer Tracy and Judy Garland and Maximilian Schell. Got that one as well, which is kind of cool. Lauren Singer's Book of the Parallax View. Yeah, George Sanders in Village of the Damned was great. My favourite George Sanders role is still in All About Eve. How do these live streams feel from my side? They're challenging. Talking for 2 hours straight and keeping an eye on the chat and getting rid of bots and all the other things is challenging, but I love it. I love the interaction of it. Live streams are fun. There's the novelization of Too Late Blues, which is one of John Cassavetes' early films with Bobby Darin and Stella Stevens in it. Do I have any non-Disney animated films I like? Absolutely. All of the Studio Ghibli stuff I love. I love A Man Called Flintstone, which is a Hanna-Barbera live-action movie. Kind of spy movie, Fred Flintstone movie, which is kind of great. I'll just get through these last two I've got here of these things. The Dirty Dozen, the novel on which The Dirty Dozen was based, which is incredibly thick. Alan Ford said, watched Cash on Demand recently, thought it was wonderful. Hammer merges a bank heist with Christmas Carol. Absolutely. Brian Lindsay says, I'm doing a great job. Thank you. And one of my favorite swashbuckling movies of all time, Raphael Sabatini's Scaramouche, which had Stuart Granger and Mel Ferrer in it. Fantastic film. Fantastic Planet's a good movie. I'm going to do that in a future video as well. I've actually got it sitting on my coffee table in the front room there at the moment. But if you haven't seen Scaramouche, the long sword fighting scene between Mel Ferrer and Stuart Granger in that one is a lot of fun. I'm going to move these aside because they're going to fall down on my feet at the moment. Yeah, we're heading up to 11 o'clock, so that's 2 hours. Thank you very much for being part of the live stream, everybody. I really appreciate that. You guys stay safe. All of you, please stay safe. Keep watching good movies. Keep watching bad movies. Where Eagles Dare. Yeah, I like that, even though it's got Clint Eastwood in it. Okay, I'll definitely be announcing the live streams in the discussion tab on the channel. Now, I think I won't try to pre-book them because that didn't seem to work. Went to do a talk by Trader Faulkner where he talked about a film about Lawrence Harvey, which had a fight scene. Harvey was myth, Faulkner was the fight was real. Yeah. Okay. Take care, guys. I'm going to end the live stream now because my bum's getting numb on this chair. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of it. And I'll catch you next time. And Wednesday, I'll have out another video. See you then.